Hi, my name is Alex Gore of the architecture firm F9 Productions, and today we're going to talk skyscrapers. So you might have seen this skyscraper in the news lately. We designed a speculative tower for Amazon, but we're not going to talk about this one. If you want to see this one, you can go to the YouTube link down here, or you could Google just F9 skyscrapers, Amazon's new headquarters. It has some pretty cool features. I think you'll like it, so be sure to check out that video. But today, we're going to talk about a skyscraper we call Grow. So Lance Psycho, my business partner, and I designed this in college. And we were asked to design a sustainable skyscraper. And the first thing we did is we researched a little bit. And we found out that buildings are responsible for about half all energy consumption. So we thought that this was a big deal, especially because everyone kind of focuses on cars when they're thinking about reducing energy, or even coal plants or the production side. But if buildings are using most of the energy, I think we need to take a more detailed look at them. So we thought about and we asked questions and tried to go for a solution of what if buildings could create their own energy? What if they could make people healthier rather than sick? Revitalize their downtowns if they could feed us and capture their own water? What would it look like? So we had to pick a site, and it had to be in San Francisco. So if you look at the lower picture, you can see that's the location of the Trans-American Tower on the left, and then our site is over on the right. So the pink shaded area is where we're going to build our site. The green area is where we'd have a park, and that white area is where we'd have just future development. So looking at the site, we saw predominant winds coming basically from the northwest, and those carried in the fog, and that's going to be key in the future. And then the sun was obviously on the south. So when we started designing a skyscraper, we asked, what if a building could grow? What would it look like? What if it could produce or capture its own water, its own food, and its own energy? How would it grow? So we took the typical tall and slender skyscraper form. We rotated it so that it faced the sun. And then we tapered the top so that the bottom would be more stable. And we did a couple things. We split the building apart. That way, more people could get sunlight. And we bent the top from itself so that we could capture the fog. And then we offset it too. So here is the split. Here is the twist so that we could capture that fog. And here's where we bent the skyscraper away from itself. So putting it in context, the fog would roll in here, and the sun would blanket the whole south side with its energy. So when the fog rolls in, what happens is that we can bring in screens that collect that fog, and that fog then turns into water, goes down tubes, and it waters this double skin system that we have along the whole southern side. So in between those two pieces of glass, we can have plants, and those plants can do two things. They can create food, but they can also clean the air. So when air comes in, it goes through the plants, cleans the air, comes in, people use the air, and then it gets breathed out, and it goes through that double skin wall on the other side, and the plants clean the air again. So essentially what we have is a giant filter for the city. Because of this orientation too, we can use wind turbines to collect that energy. This is a Venturi tube system with a direct drive motor, so it has less heavy equipment. Since we orientated the whole south, the whole building towards the south, we can put solar panels on there, and we did it in a speckled pattern so that it wouldn't be this big shading device and this kind of overbearing item in the skyscraper. So this solar panel system not only collects energy, which you could use to power electric cars, to power the building itself, but it also blocks that energy from getting into the building. So then it reduces the cooling load. Another thing we did is just organizational wise. We put businesses at the bottom because even in the winter, and San Francisco doesn't have a cold winter like North Dakota, Minnesota, anything like that. There's a lot of people in there, and there's a lot of equipment. So there's going to be a lot of heat, and that heat can rise, and it can go through that double wall system. It can be cleaned by those plants and then released into the residents above. We also wanted to bring green space up. So we provided community spaces at different levels, and then as a sort of glue in between here. We also wanted everyone to have a front yard and a backyard view. And I'll show you a little bit later how we did that in the floor plan. But you can see the balconies in the back and then basically the glass in the front. Another cool system that we used is that we didn't use symmetrical structure. So when you make an asymmetrical structure, what happens is that when the building gets pushed around by the wind or any forces, those forces can travel to redundant areas so that your building is actually stronger this way than a normal typical symmetrical pattern. With today's technology, we can use generative design to look even further. At the base, we open it up so that all sides are kind of engaged. Here's a picture of that entrance. And here's that front yard, backyard kind of system, how we got it to work. So it's called a skip-stop pattern. What that means is that it's referring to the elevators. So they're going to skip a level and then they're going to stop at a level. So at one level, you'll have a common hallway going through, and you'll have your entrance and you'll have part of your apartment. But on the next level up, you won't have a common hallway. And that means that you'll have your internal stairs, and then you'll have both sides of a view. So again, we're bringing in a concept of, suburbia, having a house with a front and a backyard, and putting that into a skyscraper. Here'd be one of those views. For the businesses, it's basically just an open floor plan for them to do whatever they want. And here's the final view, just in context. The Trans-American Tower is on the left, our tower is on the right. And here's the blown up view of that back with those balconies. So if you found this interesting, this is in our book, The Creativity Code. You can pick that up on Amazon. You can also find us, we have a podcast called Inside the Firm. It's 2 principals talking about architecture, lessons we learned, how we started a building, and we're actually a construction and development company also. Just visit our website, f9productions.com, or else you can find us on Facebook. Thanks for listening.